Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Grown Ass Business Show, where we talk to experts and business owners about how they did it and how they're still doing it. Because business looks different on everybody, just like a good dress, no matter what size you are, is going to look different on everybody. That's the same for business. The way they get to success looks very different, and we like to break down how they done it. And that's what we're here for. Today, we are with my friend, Emily Friend, who is the founder of the Florence Rose Group. There's a lot of names to remember. I wanted to talk to you on this show, Emily, because you have the unique perspective of one, having left a full-time job to grow your own business. So we're going to talk about that and why you did it and how you did it. And two, you offer unique services in the world where you actually help grow other people's businesses, much like I used to do in operation strategy. So you have this interesting double perspective of doing your own thing, growing your own business. What are the challenges around that? But also, what do you see your clients doing? And what do you like learning from your clients? So that's my very fancy non-bio reading intro, by the way, because you know I hate reading people's bios.
Thank God, because I'd hate to have my bio just read back to me.
It's awkward. So I'd rather be like,
So
you're a real
awkward.
human who I happen to like and I think is smart. Let's have a cool conversation.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here. And I love the fact that we haven't even met 6 months ago and already have this incredible journey of a storyline, which is in true to my storyline that the dots are chaotic and all over the place, but they are always perfectly lined up when I look back.
Yeah, I know. It's a beautiful thing. Oh, if only we could have more of that perspective when we're really in
In
it
it.
and trying to look forward. And it's like, it doesn't make sense. And I don't see the dots in front of me. Damn it. So, yeah. So let's go back in time a little bit. Speaking of,
Mhm.
tell us what you were doing that made you decide to start consulting on the side. And when was the moment that you were able to leave your full-time job and build your full-time consultancy? Because I think there's a lot of people who that's their intro into entrepreneurship is actually they don't go whole hog all in from like
Mhm.
0 to 100. They actually slowly leave a job to do the thing they want to do. So when was that for you? How did you finally do it?
Yeah, I can take you back in time to a very poignant story. It was probably 10 years ago at this point. I used to use the number 7 and now it's just ticked up soon. So I keep saying, oh, 7 years ago, but I started telling that story 4 or 5 years ago at this point. But I was working 80 hours a week, commuting 2 hours each way out of the city. And I just did not want to meal prep on Sundays. I was really over making lentil salads on Sunday nights and also going to the grocery store in Manhattan and having to schlep bags back and forth just so I could meal prep food that would go bad by Thursday. I was really over that. So I decided I wanted to make $100 extra a week. So that way, during the 5 days that I was in office in upstate New York, I could walk to Whole Foods and shop the hot bar and just have a lunch in the middle of the day. And that really spurred this what can I do? What do I do well? Conversation in my brain. I was very resentful that what I could do well was marketing. I think there's this mentality of like, young woman this time does marketing, does it for a hustle. That had just been such a cliche. And I was just so resentful that that was something that I was doing, but I was doing it very well. And at the company I was working for, I was in the process of standing up for them, huge vertical in their company, a huge digital acquisition vertical that they had never really had a digital transformation. And we were really doing that on their behalf. And that was my foray into what I ultimately ended up doing and what I do now. But on the side, I just started taking paid media clients and doing a little Facebook ad here and there. And all of a sudden, $100 extra a week became far more than that. But who wants to leave a cushy PTO health benefits coverage, all of those things, when even if you're changing jobs, you can get clearance for those jobs for still having your side hustle. And so out of just a fear of my side hustle never being big enough to support me the way that I wanted my full-time job to support me, I just kept doing it on the side and on the side. And I grew my company on the side to a six-figure company while I was also earning a six-figure income. And if you can imagine being a executive at a company and also the executive of your own company, you can't keep both. And I changed jobs a couple times. I have a beautiful journey that we could talk about in a different question. But ultimately, in May of 2023, I just realized I couldn't work. All I was doing was adding hours to my plate. I was just, instead of working 80 hours one week, it was 90, and then it was 100, and then it was just infeasible to add more time. And I went out on my own in May of 2023, and it was not with any, this is the day I'm leaving. I think a lot of people have this like calendar with a circle around the number, and they're like, this is the big day, countdown. I just kind of woke up in May and was like, this, and left. And that first year was chaos. And here we are. But long story short, started with lunch, ended with growing this incredible business that I couldn't be more proud of having and honoring my grandmother with, or my great grandmother with.
Yeah, I love that it started from how can I make a little bit of extra money to, oh, I maybe have a real business on my hand. And sometimes it happens like that, right? Sometimes we're super intentional and it's more like I have to build a business and I want to build a business and it has to work. And sometimes it's like, oh yeah, I needed some extra money. I have a friend actually who started her business, her online business many years ago because she wanted cash for Botox. And she says this publicly, so I'm not. But she wanted to be able to pay for her own Botox and not have to ask her husband for that. And so she started online business, and now it's a very healthy online business.
Yeah.
So I love that. Sometimes that's the
well, and it was
motivation.
so freeing because it really, I mean, it was lunch at first, and then I realized, $100 extra a week is not just what I was making. I was making so much more because I wasn't just getting one client, I was getting more. And then, those 2-hour commutes became my work time. And then all of a sudden it was enough money that I was getting a co-working space. So then I had this home away from home from this awful apartment that I had because I was living with roommates I hated, right? So then I had this beautiful space that uplifted me in a way that I never could have expected. And then that introduced me to people that I fell in love with and loved. And then that took me on vacations I never thought I'd have, but with the money that I got from this. And, a lifestyle is built that you then look to fund with that money that you don't just have if you leave your job and or leave side hustle. And I don't think we talk about that enough. Dependency that you start to have with your side hustle and your full-time job and what both of them do for you. Because everyone says, or not everyone, but most people say like, okay, well, you've built this up enough. Now leave this sense of security. But it's also that in reverse of you have your full-time job and you've built your side hustle up enough. Do you really need your side hustle anymore if you get to that next echelon in your job? But both of them are doing so many different things for you, pulling you in so many different directions and feeding so many interesting parts of you that you do become just such a multifaceted person that without them, for me at least, I couldn't untangle that person. And I think the first year, they say the first year in business is the hardest when you go out on your own. For me, it wasn't my business that was the hardest. It was, I think, the lack of identity I had not being in my corporate life anymore and wanting so badly for first identifying my side hustle as my new corporate business, but also realizing that I was losing this identity and needed to find it in other ways and was probably not going to find it in the way that I had ever been familiar with in the past. I wasn't ever going to find walking down rows of cubicles or knocking on a glass door of the CEO. And, I'm now going to find it in all of the ways I do it in the work that I do for Florence Rose Group and the way that I meet with CEOs and the way that I meet with companies as an outsider, but never again as an insider. And I think that's a really psychologically, I think it's really important that we talk about that with founders, that it's okay to mourn both identities and also talk about you can bring over parts of you, you can massage those identities. You don't just have to cut them off like they're dead limbs.
Yeah. I can relate to that. I had no problem leaving my corporate experience. I had no problem leaving that environment that you just described. But I do remember when I really started this business, I noticed in my first year the moment that I realized, oh, I can no longer operate as a COO and I have to step into the CEO seat. And that actually is not only uncomfortable, and you know that I talk about this a lot, the different seats in a business and how to really own what each seat needs to know and do. But it was uncomfortable for me to step into the CEO seat because I didn't identify as that yet.
Mm-hmm.
And it also meant just because I can do the COO stuff really well does not mean that's what's going to actually grow this business and that that's going to be the thing. In my past roles as COO to tech startups, I was able to do that role really well and move the needle forward and have my work be seen in the numbers and the revenue growth. And I could see that my COO work was moving the needle. In my own business, it was like, golly, if I get into the COO stuff too much, I'm not actually moving the needle in my business because my business requires me to be the CEO and get
Mm-hmm.
COO and ops support and find great ops support and find great ops people. And it was like a real bang my head against the wall moment when I realized, oh, I'm trying to operate as a COO and my business needs me to be the CEO. And
Yeah.
that was hard for me to change.
Yeah, I mean, that was me too, CMO role for the first 10, 11 months. Spent most of my focus in marketing and sales. I had a quick stint in politics and being a political consultant, which gave me a lot of legs and different tactics. But even then, it was very cloaked in digital marketing and strategies because political consulting has become so digital marketing. I
Mm.
don't know if when we pay attention to politics, it is all press. It is all the spin that
Yeah.
you have and then all of the back channel stories. It's certainly so much more than that. But, when we think about a campaign manager does a lot of what a CMO does for a company. And so to sit so comfortably in that CMO seat and know so intrinsically that marketing is not the only thing that moves the needle for a business and yet is constantly the thing that people say is the thing that moves your business. Getting really comfortable being the leader of a business, being the owner, the sole provider, the head honcho. It's a hard transition to make. So
Yeah.
that's
Well, let's
another
talk
it's
about
another
that
thing.
actually, because you and I had this conversation, and this is why I was like, oh, we should talk about this. And this is something that I think you and I align on, and I think is really interesting about you is you early on were selling growth marketing to highly regulated industries. Fortune 500 and Fortune 100 companies that are in highly regulated industries. And your original proposition was selling marketing. And then you said to me, when I would get into these companies and these roles, I realized they had all this operational stuff going on, and marketing was not really the thing that they needed to focus on. And that made me so happy to hear because, that is like my swan song, basically. I was like, you're singing my theme song. That's why I ultimately got into operations as well, is that I kept noticing people always focusing on the wrong things, either sales or marketing. And it was clear to me that if we could just fix certain processes and systems and make things easier, that would actually grow sales and marketing. So
Yes.
you've also had a similar experience. And I wonder if you can tell me a little bit about that. What was the moment that you started to notice in your clients, or what are the telltale signs of a business who thinks they need more marketing and maybe they don't?
God, it's so interesting because truly everyone has been so unique. But I think one of the biggest telltale signs, and this is probably not what you're asking for, but is when I get brought in to look at somebody's dashboard or their marketing strategy, or we really just need you to check out our assets. I'll come on, poke around. Oh, what is your typical approval process? What does this look like? How do we arrive at this budget? Who approves this budget? Getting into all the weeds. Who does this creative? How many freelancers? All of this. And then all of a sudden, maybe 3 days from then, I'm sitting with the CEO, and we're having this larger conversation about we actually don't have any infrastructure in place to support what they've just asked you to come in and do. And then backing out and almost like needlepoint saying, okay, if we want to be here at the end, then we have to start with this thread and this needle and join all of this together, weave this little path in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out until we get this grand design. And it's going to be painful, but it could be really simple if you just relax into it. I would say, I think it's when you meet people who want the most minutia work done that you realize that they don't have the largest infrastructure systems in place, that they're coming with I think it's going to be this one asset that's going to fix everything, or analytical dashboard that hopefully will weave all of our problems together, or this one strategy. And in reality, they don't have any tech stack that communicates their sales and marketing together, or their sales team doesn't even know what products they offer, or their offers aren't even profitable, or they don't even know what they're selling, or their product market fit isn't even there, or fill in the blank. But I will say that the telltale sign for me is when I start asking questions, no one can answer them, and then all of a sudden I'm sitting with someone that's either the president of the company, the CEO of the company, or so far up that is the only person that can answer those questions. That to me is the sign of bottlenecking. That to me is the sign of a leader who hasn't communicated their vision. That to me is, all of those telltale, we need to unwind some things.
And do you find that when you do have those conversations, do they have the answers to your questions? Okay. So basically, it's totally okay, guys. If you don't have answers to a lot of these basic business questions, most people don't. Because that's my
Yes,
experience too, is even with, I talk to 7-figure business owners and they think they have it all together. And then when I go down my business audit, they don't. And there's no guilt or shame. That's actually really normal.
exactly.
Okay. And it's just about filling in those gaps.
Exactly. And I think, for all that I just said, there is no guilt or shame. And that's always the attitude that I walk in there. It is with such compassionate curiosity. I actually just answered this question. It was like, if you could engineer a solution for the world, what would that solution be? And an equation for kindness, and there was compassionate curiosity thrown in there. I mean, there were some other things in the equation. Of course, I would have a math equation, of course, but I love math, everyone. I have a math econ degree. I really love it. But I think compassionate curiosity and the way we approach questions in the business world, those things just, they're not there. Those things are not aligned. And when we think about founders, when we think about companies that are experiencing a problem, when they're bringing in outside consultants, even if they think their solution is an asset or a marketing or a sales struggle, they genuinely think that is their problem. And when people come in and sell them a cookie cutter solution and trick them into a solution that isn't there and sell them on a strategy that isn't there, I think that's baloney. But B, if you meet that genuine self problem solving that they have with meanness, or how dare you think that that's your solution, that's the way that you stifle innovation. That's how you create this fear of change. That is often why companies fail, and often why leaders don't foster change, because that's the landscape. If you aren't willing to say, oh, that actually isn't our problem, but thank you so much for thinking that's our problem. And also, we'll get back to that when we're ready for this one. So hold on to that. And then bring it up the food chain and have these great conversations with these founders or these CEOs, they might not be the founders, but these CEOs who have a vision, and their vision is just getting stuck in translation, or their vision has been translated and somehow it's getting stuck in communication, or somewhere along the lines. It's just, there's some stuck. And if you can help parse that out, the excited look in their eyes is like euphoria. Like watching them realize that it's not as hard as people keep telling them it is, and that their business can unstick, and that all of this like mishigash can just like flow. And it doesn't need to be this complex multi-million-dollar solution, tech, big team consultancy, or what have you, to come in and cookie cutter it all apart. They're like little kids in a candy store. it's like, wait, I get to have this and I can have this and I can add this to my vision and I can do this down the road. That to me is why I built this business and why I love what I do and why I could still work 90-hour weeks and don't mind it. Because sitting down with them and getting them from that point of true frustration to true ease, there's just nothing better. And then going all the way back down to the person who brought the asset and the Google Analytics dashboard and saying, now we have all of this. Now let's solve your problem. And then that's really fun too, because then they're heard from the very beginning also and part of the conversation.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. When in your journey, in your career, did you realize, oh, everyone always thinks it's a marketing problem and it's not? And I'm good at fixing the other thing that it is. I'm good at going deeper and fixing the operational systems process problem. And when did you decide to even realize, okay, wait, this is what I do, and I'm actually going to advertise and talk about that this is what I do? Because also it's easier to sell marketing because most often everyone thinks they have a marketing problem. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I guess it's just the trend. It's the phase that we're in. It's the cycle that we're in, that everyone's a marketer. And what tends to happen is the good marketers are really good at making content about what they do. Because, by the way, hi, they're experts. So
Yep.
it's the marketers telling you that you have a marketing problem and you need them and you need their tool or service or whatever, because they happen to be, oh, yeah, that's right. Their skill is in marketing and they're really good at making ads and advertising and content that convinces you that you have a marketing problem. But there's several departments in your business and there's several departments that make your business work, not just marketing. Actually, if you just focused on marketing, that could be a disaster for many reasons, which I won't get into. But when did you take that risk of saying, okay, actually, this is what I do, and I'm going to lean into that and talk about that?
June.
That's true. I'm looking at my calendar. Yes, that's actually probably true. I didn't have an end in it at all or anything.
So funny because I really, and I keep using this example, but I really was Trojan horsing my way into companies with my marketing because it's an easy sell, just like you're describing. It's an easy sell to say, of course, we're going to come in, we're going to do XYZ, organic, paid social, PR, we'll increase this, we'll do this. And then while we're there, let's just check under the hood. Why don't we explore this? Oh, put me in touch with your head of IT. Why don't we check out this? Oh, I'd love to be on that call. Build trust, build rapport, and then all of a sudden you are a part of this. And for all of my clients who might potentially listen to this, I love what I do when I'm poking under the hood. I want you to know that I might still be doing marketing for you for my legacy clients. And I'm not saying I hate my marketing, but I also love what I do when I help make that marketing run smoother by smoothing out the other areas of your business. But in June, when I realized having to Trojan horse my way through was just this extra layer of work that was getting added onto the plate that ultimately wasn't necessary if we could just skip that layer and get right into the meat of it. And then I didn't have to make organic social ads or organic social and paid ads ever for the rest of my life. No complaints there.
Like,
And again,
I don't have a problem with that.
if my legacy clients are listening, I will always make organic social and paid ads for you. Don't worry, because I love them very much. But in June, I went through your accelerator and we did
The
such a
truth is
deep
out. We
dive.
just gave it away. We do happen to know each other for various reasons.
And shout out to the next accelerator coming up in October. If anyone's interested, please reach out.
You should join us. It's pretty
You
good.
should join.
Pretty good program.
Join. And I'll be running through it again because I love it that much. But, we do such serious soul work, numbers work, the whole kit and caboodle on your own business. And I've never, even though I've been doing this for 10 years on my own business and I've had the last year plus, I never spent that much concentrated time with my own self on my own business. It's 24 hours over that weekend that you're spending, not even, yeah, 24 hours about.
Yeah.
And, maybe 18 hours into it, I realized I really love working with certain people in these companies, digesting certain problems and untangling certain knots. And none of those knots are marketing. Because marketing is just so easy for me that I could do it in my sleep. And I want to be challenged. My biggest thing for the last 5.5 years, 6.5 years, have been me complaining to people about my brain not being used and being so sad that my brain is just atrophying because I'm just not being like not having challenge. And over that weekend, I was like, well, but I get the most challenge when I have CEOs say, no, but what about this? And I get to say, great, like, let's explore that. Why this? Why that? Tell me how this slots into your vision and why this vision now? And what's your finance department doing to support that vision? All of these questions, and then getting into the numbers and pouring over cash balance sheets, and, like all of these things that actually hurt my brain in a way that's juicy, that at the end of the day, I sit there in a fog that I love. And so we were, 18 hours in, and I sat there at the end of the day and was like, excuse me, I actually don't really love my business. And I think it was you who was like, thank God you said it.
That sounds like something I would say. Oh man. I don't hold back in those sessions, that's for sure. Sorry, not sorry.
No, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that it happened, because I think by the end of that day I had already changed my website.
Yeah.
I'd already flipped the script, because all of a sudden, you hit flow state. We talk about that all the time when a creative hits their new vibe. But I'd hit flow, and things started naturally coming out, and the conversations I started having also with the people in my life flowed so much more naturally as well. I was meeting people in my niche, having these conversations, and they understood me so much better. Like, I've been trying to explain what I do for the last year, and they're like, wait, what did you do again? And then for the first time, I was talking about what I did, and they're like, got it. I'll introduce you to our COO. I was like, amazing. And these are hedge funds and wealth management offices, and that situates exactly where I want to be. That's finance, insurance to a T. That's my specialty area. And it was wonderful. It was great. And, to have that easy momentum, because I think we are convinced as business owners that it needs to be hard. And it really doesn't always need to be hard. And I especially cling to that on a lot of my self journey, that I'm rewiring. And so to have certain things unclick and rewire, and then people come in and say, like, here's your yellow brick road, it doesn't have to be so hard.
Yeah.
Was
well, the story of it has to be hard, if we believe it, funny enough, then things will be hard.
Yes.
It's just kind of how that works. What would you say if you could go back and do something differently in the build out of your business? Now knowing what you know, what would you go and tell yourself and do differently?
I would actually listen to the learn all of your business inside and out, and really take the time to learn it. I sell that very hard now. It's one of my fast and hard truths for all businesses, even big business. I tell CEOs to spend days in their marketing departments, and days in their finance departments, and days in their sales, and almost like dirty jobs, go be undercover for a little bit. I was so busy with my full-time job that I got lost in some, not learning financial things. And, they're coming to bite me this year with my lack of, me signing away some power of attorney things, and then them catching up. And I wish I had just sat down and said, okay, this is how my tax law works. This is how quarterlies work. I thought I understood them. I didn't. So if I could do it all again, that's what I would do on a very tactical part. But I think I would, from a more broad scope, I think I would set a vision for myself, like actually believe that this business was destined to just be a side hustle, or meant to be something that someone had to force me into taking full time. Like, oh, it was just a safety net if something ever happened. And instead was, something I named after my great grandmother, who was a pillar in her community and her family, and, a staunch advocate and a whip smart, firecracker of a woman. You don't name your company after that as a safety net, right? So I wish I had, done a little visioning 5 years ago or 10 years ago when I first, started, instead of, a couple months ago. But I'm glad that I'm doing it now, because again, all the dots when you look back. So I think that, small scope, large scope.
I love that. I mean, of course, I am a little bit partial to the vision writing piece of it, and obviously understanding all the areas of your business. But I do find that sometimes we have an idea, we have a side hustle that we want to do for that extra cash or that thing, or we have a thing we want to do in the world and we just jump in and start doing it. And that's awesome and great and more power to you. And if you took the time to actually just write down, what do I actually want this to be? And what do I want it to look like? Then you can actually build that. But a lot of times we jump into the doing and the selling of the thing. And then what we've done is we've folded ourselves right into the hamster wheel. And then we're just doing
Exactly.
and wondering like, why am I so tired? Why do I feel like
Exactly.
I'm on this never ending road to nowhere? It's like, well, because you didn't actually choose your destination point. You didn't choose an end point.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I look back, I'm like, we could have just kept doing marketing
Mm.
and never gotten off of that wheel and just selling it and feeling very unfulfilled and unhappy and doing, frankly, much harder work because it isn't fulfilling, even though this work is much more mentally challenging for me and much more longer hours and much more intimately involved people with very high demanding schedules that are hard to orient around, except in very odd hours that don't align with my schedule at all. And yet, so much more clarity over my future now than had I just trudged on this wheel of, well, I guess this is my industry and I guess this is marketing and I guess this is what I do.
Right.
Especially since we had the conversation about marketing not being the fix and how many marketing people are screaming into the void, it feels a little more authentic to say marketing is one of your areas of opportunity. I'm your girl. Like, we can help you. I mean, we can help you with all areas. We can bring in the right people for anything that doesn't fit, I mean, legal and certain finance issues. We've got people we bring in. If marketing's your area of opportunity, we'll focus there, right? Like my legacy clients, the reason I get to keep working with my legacy clients is because their area of opportunity is their marketing effort. And they've got other teams that are working on their other areas of opportunity. So there's still great synchronicity there. And that's how, in my mind, I've wrapped this transition, is with operations, with growth strategy and big picture thinking, is every department is an opportunity. You either have high opportunity or low opportunity, and
Yeah.
marketing falls somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But the big picture is the future. So
Yeah.
feeling good about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious now. So, being now that you've had this kind of breakthrough and you've even pivoted your business, which is what people do, guys, and we pivot when we learn more about ourselves or our industry or our customers or what we're really excelling in. So, now that you know this and you're going in this new direction, what I'm curious, even though we can't see the dots connecting forward as much as we'd like to, what are you excited about?
I am excited for all of the clients I've yet to meet. I can't wait to meet all of the impassioned ideas and the people behind them. I can't wait to unravel the knots and the puzzles that come with them. And I mean, you know this, but on my big vision is and investing in women-owned businesses and getting that off the ground and helping them with their financial literacy and true kind of stability in starting businesses and continuing businesses and creating fast growing companies. And that I want to see happen sooner rather than later. So all of this momentum happening now is good momentum. And that makes me very excited. These changes happening now, the hustle that's happening, fast growth, all of it.
Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool and very exciting. And I am vicariously excited for you. And thank you. This has been great. Thank you for
This
willing
has
to
been
let
excellent.
us open up, look under your hood a little bit and understand what you do and how you've gotten here. This is awesome.
Thank you for having me. This has been great. You ask great questions. You ask great questions. You're an excellent listener.
I did? Oh, well, good. I mean, like interviewing is not my strength at all.
I don't know
Um,
why you would say that. You just got complimented on it.
it's not really my thing, but what I do think is fun is I think these conversations need to happen, not on the superficial level, right? Where people are more selling and promoting what they do. But I enjoy the conversations of understanding how did you get there and what were the biggest
Mm-hmm.
mistakes you made? It's like I'm asking you the questions I'd want to know as a business strategist. And I like to understand what were people's bottlenecks and pitfalls and landmines and what would they do differently. Like it helps me get better at business. So I just figure if I ask these questions publicly, it also helps everybody else get better at business. So thank you.
There you go. You're welcome.
There we go. All right. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful rest
Thank
of your
you.
day.
You too.